The NFRN Amateur Cup Series drivers had a couple well-earned weeks off on the schedule, but now it's time to get back to work. And fortunately, they don't have to change their strategy too much because for the second race in a row, we're headed to a road course for the series. Moving just one state down on the map, we're headed to a familiar city that we've been to earlier this season, just not the same track per se. Here at Mirage 2 in Death Valley, California, this is the Mirage 180. Hello again everybody, Colin Denton here on the call today for RVN, and this is the second and final road course for the Amateur Cup Series this season. We're in Death Valley, California, and if that city sounds familiar, that's because we've been here before, not with this series, but earlier in the season with the Elite Cup Series at Mirage Short Roval. So not the same track, but on the same complex. And in that race, Kenny Knox, a full-timer in this series, a part-timer in that series, was able to grab the victory. The first time a part-timer had won in the Elite Cup Series. And I've got to say, he's probably got a liking for this circuit because he's a California guy himself. This has got to be a great racetrack for him. We'll just see how he does on the pure road course of the complex. And he's got a solid qualifying start today, so he should be in good hands. However, we've got 41 other cars on the circuit. They want to take home a victory, especially those who don't have one yet so far this season. Kyle Law is hogging a few of those victories. He has 2 in a row, one of them being the last road course at Knox. Will he be able to repeat on the road courses, make it 3 in a row? We'll have to find out here today in the desert. We are once again headed to Death Valley. We were just up in Oregon at Knox Raceway, but heading down to about the mid part of California. You've seen the stats before. This is one of the hottest places on Earth. Hottest temperature ever recorded, 134 degrees in 1913. Very little rainfall. Definitely going to be some hot temperatures here in the desert today. We've got our part-time race, Mike Simpson and Steve Ray, leading off the charge. The 74 able to get into the corner with ease. However, first corner also, Jim Fowler going off the front of Dalton Wise. Fowler would get stuck in the grass, and from there, it would pretty much go all single-filed out. Really hard to pass on this racetrack, and that obviously played a factor into how these guys lined up. Making their start today, Mike Simpson, Steve Ray, James Smith, Adam Kuhn, Jesse McConnell, and Tyler Reed. All a bunch of drivers that had varying results at the road course in Mayville. And there are your last 4 running spots. Jim Fowler ended up 2 laps down, but was able to get back on track. And our hot seat driver for the race, Connor Mays. 3 top 5s in the past 4 races, the lone exception being Bump Drafton. Obviously, he was able to pull it back with a 5th place finish at Knox. Starting from about mid-pack today, going to see what he can do to pull himself up through the field. We'll be watching on his helmet cam to see how he does it. That will be all for pre-race ceremonies. Let's take it down trackside for the starting command.
It's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Here to give the command, please welcome our Grand Marshal, Sports Director and Anchor for WJHL Television News Channel 11, Kenny Hopkins.
Drivers, start your engine!
Go ahead, fired up. Command has been fired up.
The sound of engines firing means it's time for another starting grid. Let's take a look at who's within the top 20 today. On the pole is Noah Kim in the number 38 Roblox Chevrolet Camaro. New sponsor on the hood. Seems like new sponsors have a knack of getting on the pole in this series. On his outside, Chris Harley, the 2-time winner in the number 49 LA Productions Chevrolet Camaro. In row number 2, we have Chase Baldwin, who has 2 top 20 finishes this season, and Andy Coleman, who was on a streak of 2 top 10s before Knox. In row number 3, we have a pair of drivers that had solid days at Knox Raceway. Colin Lindsay, who finished 17th, and Ryan Kendall, who finished 12th. He has 7 top 20s, but no top 10s. TJ Ball is on the inside of row number 4, 1 top 20 so far this season, a 6th at Grand Detour. Anthony Lopez finished 3rd at Knox. Rounding out the top 10, we've got Kenny Knox, the Elite Cup Series winner at Mirage Short Roval, another Twix, and Kyle Wall, the 2-time winner. In row number 6, we have Jesse McConnell, the runner-up at Mayville at the Truck Series races a little bit ago, and Jacob Rose, just 1 top 5 on the season, that came at Bump Drafted. Grand Detour winner John Gilbert makes up the inside of row number 7. On his outside is Eric Van Arsdale, 2 top 10s on the season. In row number 8, a couple of drivers that finished mid-pack at Knox Raceway, 19-car fan and Kyle Bichelia. In row number 9, James Smith had a 21st place run at Mayville in the Truck Series race. Al Calloway, a 14th place run at Knox last race. And to round out the top 20, we've got Connor Mays, driver with a wide points margin over the non-winners, and Tyler Reed, his first Amateur Cup Series race since Grand Detour. The rest of the order going to scroll through on screen. Going to see which of these drivers are going to take home the victory today. Kyle Law, the winner at Knox Raceway, looking for a three-peat. Trying to see if he can sweep both of the road courses. The driver that finished second to him at Knox is going to be starting from row 20. That's Harris-Roth and Alonso. He's got a lot more work to do if he wants to make up some points, considering how well he's climbed up the points chart. Would really like to keep that momentum going, but not a great qualifying run on this second road course. Here is the sweeping downhill that leads onto the front stretch and toward the start-finish line. That's where Noah Kim and Chris Harley are rounding now. And they are waiting for the green flag to fly. Come down the hill and the green flag flies here at Mirage 2. We're racing in the Amateur Cup Series. And immediate trouble, Kenny Knox off into the dry grass. And the winner at the Mirage Short Roval in the Elite Cup Series already having problems. He's able to get through the grass and back on track, but big issue for the 76 driver early on. Looked like several drivers ended up going through the S's into the dust storm, and I imagine that the visibility just suddenly went off right there. One of the drivers that went through was Noah Kim. That gave Chris Harley the advantage coming off of turn 1. Chris Harley, one of 3 drivers with 6 top 10s in the first 9 races of the Amateur Cup Series season. That is along with Connor Mays and Kenny Knox, putting up some huge numbers in the early part of this season as we're just hitting the halfway point. Now Kyle Law, you can see here, is inside the top 10. Our 2-time most recent winner. Trying to see if he can make a move on TJ Ball, try to gain some points. Obviously, his playoff berth locked in. Just needs to clinch it. With some extra points, maybe coming from this event, he might be able to do it, but still a lot of laps to go, and we'll see how everything pans out. He's unable to get by the 62 on the outside, but might have the inside advantage here. Here's Kenny Knox. He finally caught back up to the traffic of the tail end of the field. Let's take a look at what happened here. So there's the dust storm, and John Gilbert is the one that got into him. Justin McConnell was actually lined up behind him, and we know he's on probation, but McConnell actually got to his outside, stayed on the racetrack, avoided that entire dust storm. I think the 76 got loose at some point. Yeah, 76 got loose. 98 went to the outside. John Gilbert sort of following, but then ends up getting into the back of 76. And Kenny Knox goes for a spin and now has to work his way from the back. After having a great starting spot on his home state track, this is going to be a fairly awful day for him. Here's our hot seat driver, Connor Mays, working through the corners, kind of running mid-pack at the moment. And looking to see if he can cut inside Al Calloway, making an aggressive move, but not going to be able to keep it off the corner. 46 will pull away. He will not be able to pull off the move here. Like we said, road course passing, pretty difficult. And this hairpin is almost impossible to make something happen there unless you go to the outside. But this is giving you an idea of the elevation change that these drivers are going through, because that's a pretty huge hill you go up in the later part of the circuit, and then you'll go right back down. Kenny Knox is having a pretty bad day, but Chase Baldwin, who's been having a pretty bad season, is on the opposite end of the spectrum as he runs in 4th place at the moment. And he only has 1 top 10 this season. That came at April, his home state track in Massachusetts. But since then, 28.3 is his average finish. And he's right around there about the last place mark among full-timers in standings. This would be a big break for him if he's able to stay in that spot, get a top 5 today. Also coming up here, Adam Kuhn. He had a great run in the truck race at Mayville. Now trying to see what he can do on this circuit. Currently running mid-pack. Was able to grab a top 5 at Grand Detour when he made a start there earlier, but I believe this is the first race that he's been able to attempt since race number 5, which would have been at 8 Bowl. So he's been away from this series for a while now because of his standing in the truck series, but now doing pretty decent and looking to see if he can make some more events. And yeah, as I look at that, he had made the last 4 events from races 2 to 5 before he fell out of the top 14 in truck standings. So now 5 straight events and races that he's been able to actually participate in. Now we see Noah Kim, who was on the pole but lost the lead to Harley on the first lap and still trying to track him down. We're expecting that they're going to have to make at least 1 pit stop. I believe it will be only 1 pit stop that they need to make. Pit strategy could play a factor into how these drivers end up positioning themselves. Don't know if you necessarily need 4 tires. Some might go for 2 and see if they can play defensive, because it seems like that's the strategy to play on a track where passing is almost impossible. Andy Coleman had a little bit of a streak going before he went to our last road course. He had 2 top 10s in a row, then finished 28th at Knox, our last road course, but looks like that was a little bit of a fluke in terms of how well he can run on this type of track, as he currently runs up here in the 3rd position. Could have a solid day here today. Colin Lindsay off the track! And so is Anthony Lopez. Those drivers running 6th and 7th. And they're stuck in the grass. And this is huge for those drivers. It looks like they're going to drop out. They're going to need a little help. But remember that we do not get cautions on the road courses, so they're going to have to figure it out themselves, get their cars repaired, because the field is not going to wait for them. But what a heartbreak for one of the veterans of the series. Saw Justin Rode back there. And here's Craig Martin. These are 2 guys that have new paint schemes on the cars for this week. Martin was on a streak of 6 straight top 20s, one of them being a top 10. Very consistent driver. Unfortunately, was not able to keep up that mark at Knox Raceway. I believe he might have gotten some front-end damage that forced him to take an extensive pit stop. I think that was the reasoning why he fell back at Knox, but trying to see what he can do today to get back to a streak. 6 laps complete here at Mirage 2.
Which is why we use the turn signal. All right, who can tell Mr. Leffler why it's dangerous to go fast?
The faster you go, the less control you have over your car.
Very good, Mr. Edwards, which is why...
Well, yeah, because last year at Charlotte, going about 175 off turn 4, Casey got real sideways and just T-boned me right in the door. If I'd have backed it down to, say, 150, 140, he'd have missed me completely.
T-boned you.
Well done.
The NASCAR Busch Series on ESPN2. Season begins February 17th at Daytona.
About a third of the way through this race, Chris Harley maintains the lead, looking to see if he can get his 3rd victory this season. There are no other series besides the Amateur Cup Series where a driver has more than 1 victory, and we've got 2 of those drivers with 2. And Harley is looking to see if he can make it a 3rd, as he's just been having a dominating season and looking very stout out here in the desert. See a little battle right here. That is the 36 of Griffin Lynn going to the outside of Justin Rodeback. And Austin Rogers is going to be able to make a pass on him as well. And now actually the 6 of TJ Smith making a pass on him also. The 5 might have a problem. He already had a mechanical problem at Pig Speed Dome earlier this season. It would be pretty bad if he had another. He is coming down the pit lane. I don't know if there's necessarily a problem on the car or if he's just making an early pit stop, but he's definitely not on the strategy of a lot of other drivers. Now, I believe based on how long these fuel tanks will last, he should be able to make it to the end if this is going to be his only pit stop. So if he did have a problem, not necessarily a huge issue if he's able to get off of pit lane quick. And in fact, he's going to have a lot of time to actually gain without running into traffic. And you can see he pulls off pretty quickly. So if he can stay in front of the pack, he might have an opportunity to gain some time as he's not running with other cars. We see here Colin Lindsay has returned to the racetrack. Now let's take a look at the incident that put him in the wall. And you can see it's Lopez on the back of Lindsay. That's going to turn him around, but Lopez is also going to go for the slide after that contact. And on the right side of your screen, you can see Lindsay's giving up the space to the 49 to move on by. And yeah, the 75 was working over his back bumper through those lower turns and eventually just got through him. Just hit him in the wrong place. Now the 95 has a lot of damage and getting passed up by some of the faster cars as well. And this is just a terrible season going for Colin Lindsay. One season ago, a runner-up in the Elite Cup Series. And here, getting involved in a lot of incidents. Just one top 10 this year. That came at Van Zandt, where he finished second to Clint McComb. If he had been able to get that victory, there would have been a whole different conversation for that team. And he is coming back down the pit lane. Here is Jesse McConna, a driver that finished second at Mayville. A great run for the driver. Obviously has a lot of controversy on his shoulders, but he managed to pull it off on the road course, which was a bit of a contrast to what he did running in the Amateur Cup Series race at Knox. In that race, he ended up placing 41st, but up here in the top 10, a great run going for him. Not even competing for points, just competing for experience. Clearly showing that he might be a better road course racer than originally he got credit for after he pulled out the performance he had in New York. Connor Mays, you can see, he's still behind this 46, and that just goes to show how hard passing is here. We've seen a couple of passing take place, and obviously some were able to get by the 5 car, who was apparently coming to pit lane. But it is a very rare sight to see on this type of track, especially when you're going at such low speeds at certain places. Here's Jarvin Alonso. We mentioned he was the runner-up at Knox Raceway and trying to work his way up the field, but clearly not going too fast. He currently runs 36th. With those drivers that had incidents in this race being the ones that are running behind him. Hasn't made a ton of friends in these past couple races, and especially at Castle Gorge, where he got kind of pointed the finger at for an incident that took place in the middle part of the race. But really, he kind of brushed that off. Didn't even reference it in his interview. More angry at Kyle Law for an incident that took place on the first lap. But clearly not going to have much for him heading forward into this race. Now we're looking back at Robert Harrison, who's currently the first driver on the outside looking in as it relates to playoffs. Because we've got 3 open spots as it stands. And Harrison is 14 points behind Noah Kim for an open playoff spot. Connor Mays and Kenny Knox holding the other spots, but right now it seems like Harrison is just not putting up the speed that he needs. Clearly, Noah Kim's having a fantastic day. He got the pole, currently running second. But Harrison's kind of running further back here. Other drivers like A.J. Jones and Shane Borland, here's Jarvin Alonso, drivers that have solid points going for them, are also back here in the pack. Shane Borland, someone that's kind of streaked as of late. He has 4 straight top 20s, 2 of them being top 10s. But in 32nd place, it looks like that streak's about to come to an end. But that 60 car is finally pushing forward, as only one Western Motorsports car has been able to get a win this season, and he's running 2 spots behind him, Donnie Moore. Chris Harley continues to lead this one as we approach pit stops.
Whether you work on race cars or your own car, you know what it's like to work hard with your hands. There's satisfaction in getting the job done. But when you get the job done right, that's when you earn it. That's when a Busch beer never tasted better. Rewarding hard work since 1955. Here's to earning it.
Back from our break, Ray Chapman has come in, got a 4-tire pit stop, and he's pulling away. He's one of our first cars to come in on what we would call the regular pit window, and Chris Harley is going to give up the lead. Noah Kim stays out for an extra lap. It seems like it is a very divisive field as it relates to strategy. Chase Baldwin looks like he came down as well. There's Kim, as Colin Lindsay has also come off pit lane, took another pit service. Ray Chapman also off. But he'll go a lap down to Kim, who will eventually have to make a pit stop. But now that's the first time the 38's seen the lead all day. After all, he was the pole sitter, but right off of turn 1, got through the grass, and Harley was able to take advantage. Connor Mays is in. You can see he's getting his service from our pit cam. The driver he's been behind, Al Calloway, right in front of him, taking the same strategy. Now it's a matter of can he beat him off. It looks like they're taking a little bit longer. They're making some adjustments. And the 84, a very slow stop for them, and finally pulls away, but that seemed to take a lot longer than it needed to be. That jack had been down for quite a little bit. Noah Kim now coming in. Andy Coleman's going to follow. And it looks like TJ Ball is going to stay out, and he is going to lead this lap. That's going to be his first led lap this season, and the first of his young career. Just 1 top 20 on the season. He needs a good run today, and he's been putting it up. Running very solidly, and he's going to get at least a bonus point for leading that lap. Kyle Law, the winner of the past 2 events, comes in for his service. And we've been seeing a lot of 4-tire stops. I gotta wonder if someone's going to take 2 tires, try to gain some positions here. And Chris Harley's coming back down the pit lane. And this is disastrous. The leader for the majority of this race already took his pit service, but he is back down the pit lane. And it looks like Chase Baldwin's coming with them. They have to be experiencing some kind of issue. TJ Ball, though, and the 62 is still not coming down. He'll remain out for a little bit longer. We'll take a quick break and see what is going on here at Mirage 2.
What are you doing? Good just isn't good enough? Upgrade. Or when you're ready to go from great to awesome, upgrade. If your energy drink just isn't getting it done, or you're ready for more, upgrade to Extra Strength 5-Hour Energy. Try it once and you'll know why we say upgrade to awesome.
Whew, thank you.
Yeah, it's mine though. Upgrade to Extra Strength 5-Hour Energy. How about this? Upgrade.
"16 laps in the books. Lap 17 at Mirage 2. Just 7 laps remaining. TJ Ball still needs to make a service, but a couple of drivers have made 2 stops back-to-back as they might be experiencing some kind of issue. And now Ball is going to come down for his pit service. Harley being one of those drivers that was experiencing something. And he's coming down once again. 49 is just having his day basically implode. As this is the third time that he's been down for pit service. Now that ball has come down, Simpson stays out on track once again, but it does not look like he led that lap actually. Ball still crossed the line. 74 not going to get the bonus points for that, but cannot remember if Mike Simpson made his service. But he's definitely out front and trying to see if he can contend. And Noah Kim, he might have cycled into... Wait a second, it looks like Kim is slow. He might be out of gas. I don't know how the 38 can be out of gas when he just made a pit stop, but he is definitely showing signs of slowing. There's no smoke. That doesn't indicate an engine issue. Unless there's something else in the race car that's causing that. And Mike Simpson is slow too. Two simultaneous problems. And in comes the 23, Kyle Law, Jesse McConna. They're just trying to avoid him. And that's going to be your lead group. Oh, and James Smith just plowed into the back of the 74. One part-timer into another. And the hood is crunched in on the 2 car. And A.J. Jones stalled on the middle of the racetrack at the top of the hill. And the 31 smoking chaos in the late going of this race. So much going on around the circuit, and Chris Harley is out of gas too. And this appears to be an epidemic. What in the world is happening to these race cars? And look who's in the lead. It's Kyle Law, the winner of the past 2 events as he goes around John Gilbert. Could he go for 3 in a row? Jesse McConna gets held up by Gilbert. And Jacob Rose takes advantage going into the hairpin. And Kenny Knox stalled on track as well. Already had his problem earlier in the race. And Kyle Law getting held up by it. Jesse McConna looking to the outside. He goes to the outside and takes the lead away from Kyle Law. No idea why the cars stopped right there. I imagine because Chris Harley was up against the wall. And they were just trying to work their way around without hitting anybody. But the 23 and the slow, the 98 took advantage, and he is out in front now. Talk about a way to lose a race if that is what it comes down to. But we do not get cautions on the road courses. Anthony Lopez also out. And the drivers zoom by him. Ryan Kendall is out, and he's going up the hill, and that's where we saw this last incident. How do the leaders respond? They're going to go to the outside, and they're going to miss it easily, but what transpired with Kenny Knox, Kyle Law is going to be fuming, possibly at himself for it, as Jesse McConna took advantage. So much been going on for the driver of the number 62 in the Truck Series. Just a couple races ago, having an incident in this series that got him under probation. He could be on his way to his first career victory. And how about a couple of drivers that need some good points days? Jacob Rosie's currently 17th in the points, finished 24th at Knox, but he's up here in the top 3 looking for a podium spot. Don't know if he's going to be able to contend for this win, but points mean everything for him right now. And given how many high-profile guys have had problems, this could be an opportunity to capitalize. Same for Eric Van Arsdale as he watches from 4th place. And another stalled car, I think that might be Lopez, and they'll be able to get to the outside of him. Van Arsdale fading a little bit back from this front three, but still within earshot, and doesn't look like 19 car fan is anywhere inside it either. So he's looking likely to maintain his position. AJ Jones, we saw him stopped on the top of the hill. However, he is back on track, unlike the rest of the guys that we've seen that had problems. So I don't know if his issue was a fuel pickup problem, but he definitely had issues that he had to get service for. But he is back on track, trying to see if he can gain some points because he needs those as well. But this is not going to be a good day for him. We have multiple drivers that are declared out of this race based on the problems they've had on track. And we'll take a look at all these incidents at the end of this race because we are so close to the end. We do not want to get away from this final few laps. Makana at the top of the hill now. And this time around, we're going to see the white flag. Makana's going to take the white flag here at Mirage 2. Remember, in the Truck Series, a part-timer, Luke Evans, took the victory away from the full-timers, including Makana, who came in runner-up spot. Now Kyle Law, he would love to have another 3 bonus points. Get a huge advantage over his competitors heading into the playoffs. But Makana, a part-timer, he is looking for a victory anywhere he can get it. Doesn't matter if he's not running for points or a championship in this series. He just wants the win. And this could be his opportunity. Taking advantage of the stalled car, not having cautions on the road courses, he is using that to his advantage. And he is working these turns perfectly. They get through the hairpin. The 98 just has to navigate 2 left turns. And what a redemption for the 98 driver. So much going on in his career these past couple races. But today, he takes home a checkered flag here at Mirage 2. Jesse Makana with his first career victory in the NFRN as he looks to go for a playoff spot in the Truck Series. He's going to have some hardware to take home from California. Great day for that young driver. Now let's go ahead and take a look at every on-track incident we saw. So originally, apparently, AJ Jones was the first one that gets stalled, and then John Gilbert was the run that ran into the back of him. So that's why the 31 was damaged. But the 4 car had a problem of some sort. He was the first one to experience that. And then we're going to see them crawl up the hill, and it looks like Al Calloway and I believe Austin Rogers are going to get held up as a result of that. Calloway still got to a top 10 finish, but Rogers looks like he lost a little bit more than that. Looking from the roof of John Gilbert. Ugh. Now, I'm not sure what to say about in terms of getting around that. Obviously, we're on board the roof rather than the cockpit. And then Mike Simpson held up a few of these guys who almost ran into him, but managed to swerve. Somehow James Smith did not manage to make that move. Seemed like the outside was the easiest lane to go to, and still, drivers still having trouble to navigate around the guys that had problems. And then right here, there's like 3 or 4 guys that are stalled out here. This is like a car stalling out on the interstate, right in the middle lane, and everyone's trying to go by him. Austin Rogers made contact with Knox, but everyone's just trying to slip right up the middle of Noah Kim, Kenny Knox, Chris Harley, Mike Simpson. All 4 of those guys stalled on the hill, and this was the move that won the race. You can see Harley is stuck right there on the wall. Kenny Knox is up ahead. Because they were trying to avoid Harley, other guys were going to the left. Makana went to the right, and that was the winning move right there. So Kyle Law's bid for 3 straight comes up just short, as Jesse Makana is going to be victorious out in the desert. Jacob Rose, Eric Van Arsdale, and 19 car fan going to round out the top 5. Adam Kuhn, another driver that had a great day at Mayville, will finish 7th. Tyler Reed, another part-timer, in 8th. We'll also mention some of the full-timers up here. Griffin Lynn in 6th, Jason Thales in 9th, Al Calloway in 10th. A few of those drivers with some much-needed top 10s. Just on the outside looking in, Craig Martin, TJ Smith, Connor Mays, all outside of the top 10. Jack Freeman, our highest-running California driver, finishes in 14th place. Here's Arvin Alonso, was able to make a bit of a recovery after his far back starting spot. He ends up in 23rd place. And what seemed like pit strategy for Justin Roadback did not pan out in the end. He ends up in 29th place, the last car on the lead lap. We'll see here A.J. Jones finished 2 laps down in 31st place, and then all the guys that had problems. James Smith, John Gilbert, Andy Coleman, Ryan Kendall, Anthony Lopez, TJ Ball, Noah Kim, Chase Baldwin, Kenny Knox. Some of these guys we didn't see on the track having problems, but I believe they had problems on the pits. It seems like we had a real problem with fuel pickups, and it does not appear like there is a single manufacturer being singled out here. It seems like across all the manufacturers there were problems with fuel pickup in this race. That is definitely something that the league is going to have to address, but definitely claiming some cars here today, especially some of them that run well, like Kim and Ball, as well as Harley, who's going to finish in the back two. Colin Lindsay ends up in last place. As it relates to standings, it didn't matter what kind of day Chris Harley had. With 2 races remaining in the regular season, he is still confirmed into the playoffs. We'll be seeing him in the postseason. He's the only driver in the Amateur Cup Series that is clinched in. Donnie Moore, Kyle Law, and Dwayne Calloway are the next few that will try to claim their spot at the next race at Peoria. Meanwhile, Connor Mays takes the outright points lead with a solid day just outside the top 10. We see some of the drivers that finished inside the top 5. 19-car fan Jacob Rose and Eric Van Arsdale. They all jump into the top 14, and they are trying to see if they can work their way up into the playoff spots. A great gain for them, and a great run at the late going of this race. Colin Lindsay continues to show struggles as he falls all the way back to 26th place in standings, with just a couple races left to see if he can possibly go for a win. Not sure if he's going to be able to make up the points at this point. And near the back of the grid, it's once again Chase Baldwin who's going to be last place in the full-timer standings. Mike Simpson, Justin McConnell, and Adam Kuhn trying to inch up against Barry Watson, who is obviously outside the top 14 in standings, way far back now. He's all the way back in, I believe, 28th place. So clearly not going to be making a start soon. This could be an opportunity for some of the other part-timers to try to pounce on him. Here's what the playoff picture looks like in chart form, and Jesse McConnell's win opens up yet another point spot. That means we have 4 point spots open. That is a huge number of drivers that are going to get in on points alone. Connor Mays is way out there, not quite clinched, but he is definitely on a huge tear in terms of the rest of these drivers. Kenny Knox, Robert Harrison, and Noah Kim currently holding a slight lead over the rest of the field, including Alonso, 19-car fan, Rose, Borland, Van Arsdale, and Rogers. They are all kind of within a small bubble of each other, going for those final 2 spots. You can even throw Knox into that mix as well. Final 3 spots, May seems like the one that has that one all locked up. And we'll look at the team standings. Looks like Coco Racing had a very solid day. Ramco Motorsports with Sparky on the track. He finished kind of mid-pack, but Coco definitely had some solid runs today as they are in charge of the team standings. And a little bit of a team name note. The team formerly known as Benko Coles Motorsport with Griffin Lynn and Herjel Arvin Alonso is now Herjel Motorsports. That's how they'll be referred to throughout the season. We've got no chart on the next race for the Elite Cup Series because we'll have another Amateur Cup Series event at Peoria before we hit the Elite Cup Series. But that will be our throwback week, so we hope you will tune in for a little bit of nostalgia on the track and on the screen. But it's going to be hard to match some of the intensity that we got out of today at Mirage 2. Drivers having problems, drivers taking advantage of others, and in the end, it was a part-timer spoiling a bid for 3 straight. We hope you all enjoyed today's road course broadcasts, and we'll see you when we head to the throwback weekend at Peoria. For NFRN and RVN, my name is Colin Denton, and we hope to see you next time.